Hello and welcome back to Animated Banners in CSS. In this lesson, we're going to get started building the HTML for our banner, but before we do that, we need to create a folder to contain our files. Now, as we move forward, we're going to be saving different versions of this folder so that you can have all of the steps that we're taking as we move forward. But we're going to start in our project files folder by creating a new folder, and I'm going to call this Banner01. I'm also going to create another new folder called IMG for images, and I'm going to drag that images folder into the Banner01 folder. And then I'm going to expand the Banner01 folder and the assets folder, and I want to make a few copies of some of these images here. Now, if you remember, the snowman and the tree image are the two original images that were in this assets folder that we pulled in to create our foreground image, which contains both of them. So we don't need to include the snowman and the tree images. But for the banner BG image, the foreground image, snow back, and snow front, all of those are going to be copied into our images folder. So I'm going to grab all four of those, Command C to copy them, or Control C if you're using a PC. Then we'll double click on the images folder here to go into it, and then just paste those images there. Then I'm going to hit the back arrow to go back to the project files folder, and I'm using TextMate. And with TextMate, you can actually open up an entire folder, and the way you do that is by dragging that folder down to the TextMate icon, and that will open up TextMate, and that opened it in a separate viewing area. So I'll just drag that over here and hit the plus arrow to resize it, and there we go. So it opened up the entire folder, and we can see the contents of that folder over here on the left. And inside the Banner1 folder, I'm going to right click and click on New File, and I'm going to call this file banner.html and click on Create. And when we do that, it will open the file up in our text editor. Now, if you're not using TextMate, obviously the process might be a little different as far as setting up your files and getting them open. Either way, right now, we're just going to be dealing with banner.html. So once we get into that file, let's go ahead and create the basic skeleton for our document. So I'm going to create a doc type of HTML, which is the HTML5 doc type. We'll create our opening HTML tag here, set language to English. Skip a couple lines and put our closing HTML tag. And then we'll go ahead and put a head for our document and skip a couple lines and put our closing head tag here. And then we'll go ahead and do the body tag as well. And then inside the head, we'll go ahead and put a title here. And this title will be Animated Banner. And then we'll get started inside the body. Now, chances are, if you create a banner like this, you're not going to create it by itself on its own HTML page. So you would probably have to work this into the HTML of a page that's already been designed. Either way, I'm going to contain this entire banner inside a div, and you would just put that div wherever it needs to be in the HTML. So we're going to create our opening div tag here, and I'm going to give it a class of banner so that we can actually style the div, and then we'll put our closing div tag after a couple of line breaks there. And then inside the banner, we just start inserting our content. So we don't need to include the background image of the hills and the sky and that rectangle that's going to have the text on it. That background image is going to be placed in CSS. So we don't need to include that in our HTML. However, we do need to include our other images. So I'm going to insert these images from back to front, or from far to near. So the farthest image away from us, or away from the quote-unquote camera, is going to be the image of the snow, the smaller image that is. And I'm going to open up my images folder here in our side panel, and it's going to be this snow back layer. And one real cool thing about TextMate is we can just drag that into our page, and it will create the image tag for us. It even gives us a width, a height, and an alt attribute. And I'm going to get rid of the alt attribute, even though technically you're supposed to have an alt attribute for a banner like this. I'm going to get rid of those alt attributes, but that creates it for us. And I also want to give it a class so that we can style it. So I'm going to give this a class of img-snow01. And I'm going to give all of our images here a class name that starts with img, and that will make some of our CSS a little bit easier later on. And similarly, we're going to give all of our text fields a class that starts with txt. But again, the image furthest away from the camera is going to be this snowback PNG file. And then a little bit closer to us, we have our foreground image, which contains our tree and our snowman, and that's called foreground.png. So I'll just hit return to go to the next line here, and then grab foreground.png and drag it into place here. And again, I'm going to get rid of the alt attribute that it adds for us. And then on the next line, just for kicks, I'm going to go ahead and type this one out. So we would put our image tag here, set our source equal to img / and then the name of the image, which is called snow-front.png. And then we would include width, height, and everything else. So again, our width for this one is the same as our snowback.png, 900 pixels. And our height, again, is twice as tall as the banner itself. So the height is 600 pixels. And we'll give this a class of img snow02. And we forgot the class on this one up here, so we'll go ahead and add that now. Class equals img, and we'll just call this img01. So that gets our images in place. Now I want to get the text in place. So just after our third image, we're going to go down to the next line, and we're going to put our heading text that says everything is 30% off, and I'm going to put that in an h3 tag. So we'll put our opening h3 tag here. And I'm going to give this a class of txt-heading01. If you remember, I said we're going to apply a class for all of our text fields. Our class name is going to start with txt. So this one's txt-heading01, and we're going to type everything is 30% off, and then our closing h3 tag. Now I mentioned before that this text is eventually going to animate off and another heading is going to animate on. So I'm going to put that other heading on right now, but I'm going to comment it out so that we can't actually see it, so that it doesn't actually show up. Because right now we want to make sure that we get the banner looking like we need it to, and then we'll start animating it. And if we have two different H3s here, it's going to get all cluttered and we're not going to be able to read everything. So we're putting this inside a comment for now, but again later on we'll uncomment this. But this is going to be another H3, and it's going to have a class of txt-heading02, and for that particular heading it's going to say Friday and Saturday. If we spell that right, there we go. And then our closing h3 tag there, and then we'll close out our comment. So we have two different h3s, two different headings that are going to come in, but for now we're just turning that second heading off so that we can't see it just yet. So let's come down here, and now we're going to create our text that's going to show up down below. And for this text, we'll just put these in paragraph tags. So we'll use our opening paragraph tag here with a class of txt01. And this is going to be the text that says winter sale. So we're going to have two different paragraphs here. The first one is going to say winter, and we'll close our paragraph. And then our second one, which we'll give a class of txt02, is going to say sale, and then we'll close that paragraph tag. And then again, when these animate off, we're going to have other text that comes on, and that text is going to say click here to learn more. So the first paragraph is going to have a class of txt03, and it's going to say click here, and I'm using all capital letters there for that. And then we'll create a new paragraph here with a class of txt04, and it's going to say to learn more, and then we'll close that paragraph. Now once again, these two paragraphs are not going to show up at the very beginning, so I want to comment those out for now. So we'll put our opening comment tag here, and then our closing comment over here. And there we go. So we have some extra HTML here and here that we're not going to be able to see at first. And later on, we'll take those comments off so that we can actually view them. But I wanted to go ahead and get that HTML in place so that we know what we're dealing with. So you'll notice right now, we just have kind of a list of all of the content elements that need to be inside this banner. So we just have a few image tags, a couple of H3 tags, a few paragraph tags, and it's all just kind of thrown together here. And the images are kind of in order from far to near, and our text is kind of in order from top to bottom. But other than that, all of these tags are just thrown in there. And if we were to view this in a browser right now, it wouldn't be all that pretty. In fact, we could go ahead and save this and view that in Chrome. And I'm going to bring that window over here so we can see it. And we can see that we don't have a lot to look at just yet. We have our image over here on the right, and as we scroll down we can see some of our text, and we can't see very much of our text because a lot of it is commented out. So there's really not a whole lot to look at just yet. But once we get into our CSS, we're really going to make this obviously look a lot better. Hopefully we're going to make it look just like our Photoshop file. So that's the basic HTML setup. Obviously we're going to get this to look a little bit better as we move forward and start styling it and animating the items on the stage. But for now that takes care of it. So with everything saved, we'll go ahead and move on to the next video. Thank you for watching.